Hi. So I'm going to do a little post-run yoga. I quite like to start my post-run yoga standing just because I feel like the energy is still quite high after the run. So I like to start just by reaching my arms up and just keeping a little bit of movement in my legs. Me just moving around the mat. And then with your hands interlaced, place them behind your head and widen your elbows and just push your head into your hands. So there's a little bit of an extension of the upper back, and that's quite nice counter from the hunching forward of the run motion. And start to reach your arms up and then reach up one arm at a time, like you're trying to grab something from the ceiling. Reach up, and then slowly start to lower down the opposite arm as you're reaching one arm up to get into a bit of a side bend, which is a nice relief into the sides of the waist. And it even opens up a little bit into the hips, the outer hips, and the tensor fascia latae, which can get really tight from running. And then just let it linger for a few breaths here. Maybe just let your head dangle downwards. And then swap sides. And come back and bring your hands behind your back. Interlace your fingers and just give your shoulders a roll back. And as your shoulders roll back, just start to reach your knuckles away from your low back and your knuckles down towards your heels. I like to keep a little bend in my elbows, and I feel like that gives me a bit more space across the collarbones. And now, while you're doing that, try to stack your shoulders and ribs over your hips so you're stood up nice and straight, but whilst keeping that, let your chin lower toward your chest. And then maybe just do small little moves of your head side to side. And that can get a little bit of space, open up into the neck and shoulders. And then bring your hands around to the side of your waist. So keeping that interlacing the fingers. And keep your elbows reaching back, but then turn your head to your left and down a little bit. So you're gazing down towards your left hip. Maybe start to lean your head back ever so slightly, and that can get into the SCM muscle, that the muscle goes from your jawline down to your collarbone. And bring your head back forward, tilt your nose up and straighten your neck. And then bring your knuckles back down and then around to the left side of your waist. Let your left elbow stay reaching back. And then let your head come down to the right and point your nose and chin down. Gaze down towards your right hip and your right heel. And then lean your head back ever so slightly. Come back to center. Bring your nose back forward and lift your head back to straighten your neck. Release your hands down and then just give your arms a bit of a shake around. And shake, shake, shake. Shake, 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 shake. Shake, shake, shake. And then we're going to start to get into the legs a little bit more. So bring your right knee up towards your chest and really flex that hip and that knee. So while we were running, we would have had that flexion happening, but not as extremely as this. So try to keep it as deep as you can. And if balancing is really tricky for you, then you can lean against a wall while you do this. Just hold it in. And while you pull your knee up towards your chest, try to stay stacking your shoulders and ribs over your hips and foot. You can also do this on your back if balancing is just too much for you today. And then place your right foot back down and swap sides. Ooh, bring your left knee up. Ooh, I can feel that in the glutes. You may have noticed as I bring the knee up, I start to lift from my breastplate a little more, and that just gives me a little bit more height, but also a little bit more space for my knee and thigh to come in even closer to my chest. If you're laying down, it would be similar to try to press your shoulder blades against the ground more. And then place your foot back down. We're going to go into the old classic thigh stretch. Now, with the thigh stretch, I'd like you to maybe hold onto a wall or don't if you don't need to, but grab your right ankle with your right hand. And then once you have a hold of it, try to line your knees up with each other. And then pull your pubic bone forward and pull your heel towards your bum. And if that's not giving you enough, so with your thighs zipped up together and your pubic bone rolling forward, you might not feel enough. So try to keep that rolling forward of the pubic bone and the inner thighs reaching together, but then start to bring your right knee back a little bit. And when you do that, resist the urge to flare forward with your ribs. So you really focus on bringing that pubic bone forward, keep the toning in your low belly, and then sweep your right knee back ever so slightly. And then if you want to stretch into the ankle a little bit more, you can move your hands up towards your toes, and that stretches the top of your foot as well. Release your right foot. Swap sides. So come into your standing on your right foot and bring your left knee in. And then zip the inner thighs together. Pull your pubic bone forward, lift up from your breastplate, and then maybe glide your left knee back slightly. A lot of times we sometimes flare the knee out to the side. So try to keep your inner thighs squeezing toward each other and then keep that toning in the low belly as your pubic bone reaches forward. Release your left foot. Come back forward and let your feet stand underneath you in a supportive way. And then take a deep breath in to reach all the way up. And then as you exhale, hinge from your hips. So put a bend in your knees, stick your bum out, and fold forward. And keep the bend in your knees so you can let your chest lie on your thighs. Just dangle there. And while you take a few breaths here, you might start to feel the backs of your legs, your hamstrings start to open up. And if you do, then you can start to straighten that bend from your knees ever so slightly as you spend more time here. Maybe take your peace fingers and grab your big toes. If you're still wearing shoes, just grab the tops of your toes, the tops of your shoes, and then pull down a little bit. And that can just increase that intensity. And if you're pulling down, try to reach your breastplate towards your toes more than your shoulders, so your neck stays nice and long. Release your toes if you have them. Keep a little softness in your knees. And then let your left fingers touch the ground or use a block or something to place your fingers on. And start to bend your left knee. I'm going to turn a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Bend your left knee, straighten your right, and start to reach your right hand up to the sky. Keep a little bit of toning in your low belly, and that helps encourage the twist to be a little bit deeper. And then reach your lifted hip, your straight leg hip, up towards your reaching arm. And as your hip reaches up, try to push that heel down. And release your right hand and swap sides. Bend your right knee, reach your left hand up, straighten your left leg, and then pull your left hip away from your left heel as if it's trying to get into that left hand up in the ceiling. Lower your hands back down, sway a little bit, and then slowly roll yourself up to the count of 8. We're probably at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then let's take a nice wide stance with our legs, as wide as your legs can let you. And when I get into a wide stance, I like to just sway my hips a little bit side to side, and that gets into the inner thighs ever so slightly. And from your wide stance, place your hands on your hips, put a micro bend in your knees, and then fold forward. Lead from your heart to fold forward. And then as you find yourself forward, maybe your hands come into blocks or your fingers can come to the ground, or maybe you even have space to bring your forearms to the ground. Let yourself just lay down toward the ground. And then start to walk your hands out to your ankles. Hold on to your ankles and reach your elbows away from each other to the sides. And then slowly bend your right knee and lower your hips. So you're really getting into that inner left thigh. Inhale to come back up and exhale, bend into your left knee. And if you're finding that grabbing your ankles is too much, you'll still get a bit out of this. You'll still get lots out of this, actually. Grabbing your shins or even keeping your hands on your thighs. Come back through center and bend your right knee, straighten your left leg. Come back through center, bend your left, straighten your right. Come back up. Lift yourself all the way up. Turn your right toes to the right and push your left heel out a little bit. Reach your arms all the way up. Have your palms face up and then bend your right knee into a warrior 2. We're going to move a little bit with this. So inhale, straighten that leg, and exhale, re-bend. And try to keep your knee bending toward the pinky side of your right foot. Straighten as you inhale. Press down through the pinky side of your left foot, and exhale, re-bend your right knee one more time. And now with your palms facing up, reach your right hand up and your left hand down into a reverse. Get a little bit into the side body, stretch out those ribs. And then exhale to come back through warrior 2. Place your forearm to your thigh and then sweep your left arm forward, turn your palm around, and then reach your left arm forward to, say, 11 o'clock if your toe is pointing to 12. And take 2 more breaths here. 1 more breath. And then sweep your arms back up, straighten your right leg, and lower your hands to your hips. Turn your toes forward and swap sides. So bring your left toes to point to the left. Push your right heel out away from your left foot a little bit, just a small amount, so that way your hip might feel a little bit more ease in that rotation. And then reach your arms out, palms up, bend your left knee. Press down through the pinky side of your right foot and keep your foot grounded so both feet feel heavy. Inhale to straighten that left leg. Exhale, bend your knee. Keep that external rotation in the thigh. Inhale to straighten. Exhale to bend. One more. Inhale to straighten. Exhale to bend. And then reach your left palm up, right palm down. Deep breath in. Stretch out those left ribs. Good. And then exhale back to warrior two. Bring your left forearm to your thigh and turn your right palm down. Sweep your right arm forward and around and reach towards 1 o'clock with your right hand if your left foot is 12 o'clock now. Try not to wear your shoulder as an earring. One more breath. Come back up. Turn your toes forward. And then fold forward again one more time. Bring your palms to the ground. Place your left palm on the ground below your forehead. And then reach your right hand up. Reach up with your right hand like you're trying to grab the ceiling and push down with your left hand like you're trying to push yourself off the ground. And then ground down through all four corners of each foot. Exhale your right hand down, swap sides. Inhale your left hand up. Push down with your right hand. Try to separate your arms as much as you can. Try to lengthen your collarbones wide. And then exhale your left hand down. Come back up. Place your hands onto your thighs. Bend your knees. So have your hands on your inner knees, inner thighs, and try to push your knees away from you. And this time, let your shoulders come up so you just sink into this pose like an umpire and just do a little sway side to side. And then bring your hands down to the ground, or you can use blocks or your water bottle or whatever you've got, and bend into your right knee. And now let your left toes come up and point your left toes to the sky. And that might cause your right heel to come up, and that's fine. But keep your right hand pushing your right knee away from you and let your left toes and left knee point up. So you're getting an external rotation into that leg. And just take 2 breaths here. Skandasana. This is one of my favorite poses. It just feels so good. One more breath. And then come back up. Place your heel and toes back down and walk your hands to the left. Bend into your left knee and let your left heel lift and your right toes lift. So you pivot your right toes and your right kneecap up. And then use your left elbow to push your left knee away from you. Keep that external rotation come from the thigh bone rather than at the shin or the ankle. And start to pivot your right toes down, lift your hips back up through center, and then bring yourself all the way back up. Bend your knees and walk your feet together. Now, if you have somewhere to sit on the ground, on a blanket, on your jacket, whatever you can sit on, just on the floor, and then straighten your legs out in front of you. I quite like sitting on something, maybe even like a rolled up towel or a book. And that just lets the hips have a bit more space and it lets your low back stop from rounding. A lot of people that have tight hamstrings and tight backs end up sitting kind of like this. And so if that's you, then sit on more things until you can sit a bit more straight through the spine. It doesn't matter how straight your legs get, as long as you're feeling a bit of sensation opening up the backs of those thighs. Bend your right knee and then cross your right foot over your left. Keep your left heel grounded. Keep your left toes and knees pointing straight up. It's really easy to forget about that straight leg. And now take your right hand behind you and take an inhale to lengthen your spine and reach up with your left hand. And as you exhale, hook your elbow or hug your knee with your left hand. And try to keep your ears over your shoulders, over your ribs, over your hips, so that way your spine is nice and vertical while twisted. Maybe if you've been hugging your knee for a bit, you might have the space now to hook your elbow and get a little bit deeper into that stretch, into that pose. And try to keep a slight toning in your low abdomen, in your low belly, and that helps you deeper the twist. That's good English. Deepen the twist. Untwist yourself. Unhook your right leg from your left. Straighten your right leg as much as you can. Bend your left knee and we'll swap sides. Hook your left ankle over your right thigh. Keep your right leg engaged, so push out through the heel and spread your toes. And then sweep your left hand behind you like a little kickstand. Inhale to lengthen your right arm up. Exhale, twist to the left. Unhook your elbow from your knee. Uncross your legs. Cross your ankles and come forward into hands and knees. And then from hands and knees, take a few breaths through cat-cow. Inhale to lower your belly and broaden your collarbones as you gaze up. Exhale, round your spine. Inhale, lower your belly, gaze up. Exhale, round your spine. Inhale, lower your belly. Exhale, round your spine. And now tuck your toes under, and we'll move through a bit of flossing as well. So as you inhale and lower your belly, push your hips back. And then on your exhale, as you round your spine, pull your shoulders forward. Gaze between your thighs. Inhale to lower your belly, gaze up. Push your hips back to your heels. Exhale, round your spine forward. Inhale, cow pose, back. Exhale, round your cat and pull it forward. And then come back to hands and knees, neutral spine, and step your right foot forward. And if you find that your knee is sensitive, you can take a blanket or towel, something, cushion, whatever you've got to support your knee. And then come up to hands and knees. And then from hands and knees, energize your knee and heel toward each other until the front of your left thigh feels longer. And then try to rotate that outer right hip down a little bit so your inner thighs reach together. And then pull your pubic bone forward like we did in the standing poses. And that's really going to get into those legs. And then you can keep your hands on your hips or reach your arms up, whichever feels best for you. But try to broaden across the front of your chest and keep your ribs pulling toward each other. That'll help keep space in your low back. Bring your hands down to the ground. Place your hands on blocks or on toilet rolls, whatever props you have to lengthen your arms. And then bring your right knee back an inch or two. And then from that outer right corner of your right hip, pull your right hip back. Keep your big toe knuckle glued to the mat or to the ground. And then pull that outer right hip away from the big toe as if you're trying to stretch that line that goes all the way across from toe to hip. And while you pull from the outer corner, try to notice if you're leaning left or right by looking back at your left thigh. And then lengthen your chest, lengthen the front of your belly, and then exhale, fold a little more. Bend into your front knee. Place your hands down and come back to hands and knees. And swap sides. Place your left foot forward. Keep those back toes tucked under and press yourself up to hands and knees. Keep your hands on your hips if you did on the other side. Keep your collarbone broad and energize your heel and knee toward each other. Rotate your left outer hip down and squeeze your inner thighs together. Pull your pubic bone up so there's toning in your low belly and knit your ribs up. Maybe reach your arms up this time just for a bit of extra balance challenge. Bring your hands down to the ground, hands tented or on a prop to lengthen your arms, and bring your right knee back an inch or two, and then pull your left hip back away from your left big toe. Come forward, place your hands down, and then step back to hands and knees. We're going to come into pigeon pose. So bring your right knee to your right wrist. And then with your left hand, grab onto that right ankle and bring the shin across the front of your left thigh. So your right shin's on an angle on your mat. And then walk your left leg back and try to keep your left leg right back behind you, straight back behind that butt cheek. And then take a few seconds, just let your pelvis settle. And some people quite like to stay upright. And this is actually really nice to get a bit of an extension in the spine, a little bit of space across the chest. Maybe even widen your hands so they're kind of like seal pose hands. But if that feels too much in your back, or if it's too much of a challenge to stay balanced, especially if you've got very tight hips and you're like way high up or leaning to one side, then coming down to your forearms might just be the ticket. And this is also possible to do from your back as well. And just hold on to your knee and your ankle. Start to straighten your arms and come back upright. Tuck your back toes under to crawl your knee forward enough that you can come back into hands and knees. And then bring your left knee forward to your left wrist, or maybe even outside your left wrist. With your right hand, grab your left ankle and bring the shin across at an angle. And then walk your right leg back. So we're trying to keep the hips level with the front edge of your mat, with the short edge of your mat. And we're trying to keep them also level and horizontal, so you're not leaning to one side or the other. And then if you stayed upright for a little while in the last pose, please do the same on this side, just to create a bit of balance and equanimity. And then maybe come down onto your forearms, or even rest all the way down to the ground. You can do whatever your body's asking for. It's your practice, it's your body. It will let you know what's good and what's not. And sometimes the feeling of an extreme stretch might feel challenging, but it might also feel right. So really pay attention to the nuances of what your body's telling you. Straighten your arms. Walk your back knee forward and come back to hands and knees. And just widen your knees. Bring your big toes to touch. And just take a few breaths in a child's pose. Let your arms reach forward. Try to energize your arms forward as if you're trying to pull yourself out of the pose, but your hips are being glued down. And that's a really nice opening into the back body, into the shoulders, and the chest even. And then lift yourself up, bring your legs around, and come onto your backs. And as you find yourself at your back, keep your knees bent and your feet flat on the ground. Just take a few breaths to let your back settle, let your spine settle. And then have your feet grounded on the floor from toes to heels and back. Push down through all four corners of each foot, and then push your shoulder blades toward the ground. Let your hands come by your sides, and then just slowly peel your spine up from tailbone up. And try not to move your head too much. And then place your spine back down nice and slowly. Peel your spine back up. Lower your spine back down. And now cross your left thigh over your right thigh. Let your hands come out to a T or a cactus or even around your head. And then bring your knees up and lower your legs to the right. You may find that that's too much, so you can also just stack your knees or use your right hand as a weight to help keep your knees down even more. But breathe into that left side of your body as if your lung filled the whole space. Really direct the energy of your breath around there to create a bit of openness, to clean it out, and to create some more space. Bring your knees back up uncross your thighs, and then cross your right thigh over your left. Lift your knees up and lower them to the left. Maybe use your left hand as a weight. And then breathe all that same fresh energy around the right side of your body, as if you can open it up and clear it out more with each breath. Bring your knees back up, uncross your legs, and then give your knees a hug in, maybe roll around like a little bean. Roll side to side. And place your feet back down. Peel your spine up again slowly as you inhale. Exhale it back down. One more inhale to peel it up. Exhale, lower it down. And then hug your knees in. And maybe just stay there softly. Or come into a happy baby. So reach your hands between your thighs. Grab the pinky sides of your feet. And then show the soles of your feet to the sky. Knees down by your outer shoulders or outer armpits. And then start to press your tailbone toward the ground. Just a small amount of energy creating a push-pull between hands and feet. And just take a few breaths there. Let that energy and the weight from your feet start to drain away and downward to help you feel a little bit more fresh and ready to move again. And then release your feet from your hands. Place your feet down and maybe come into a Shavasana. Let yourself just lie down and chill out. Or if you're raring to go, then we'll sit up, get ourselves out, and get ready for the rest of the day or meal, have a shower, whatever. Thanks for practicing with me. Have a great day.